cream of the crop. Nobody does it better.
Hey, but you are so money and you don't even know it.
I understood that reference.
Morning, Mr. Hammond.
Your mission,
should you accept it, steal, destroy, shadow, disappear.
assemble the team.
And here we go.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to FreeWheeling Fridays here on the Madness Comic Network. This is the show where we introduce you to some creators out there who got a lot of stuff going on, and we do our best to promote them to the best of our ability. And also, we talk about all things pop culture. So thanks for joining us. I am your host, Ryan of Van Dyke Quote Channel. Please welcome our guest, artist, animator, someone who's been in the business for so many years. His biography is probably 6,000 miles, 6 million pages long. I don't know, something like that. David Campiti is here with us. Hello, David. How are you today?
I am doing well. It's I don't draw so much as do everything else that's on the resume. So for those of you out there who don't know who I am, I've been in the business 40-something years. As a writer, editor, publisher, designer, just about everything else, except actually drawing the books.
All good things. Well, thank you for being here with us, David. Now, if you have any questions for David as we go throughout the course of this episode of FreeWheeling Fridays, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. We'll be taking those as they come in respectively. And do not forget to like and share this with all of your closest friends. And if you're joining us live or what is known as a replay, we thank you so much for doing that. With all that business, I should say, out of the way, David, how were you introduced to the world of comics?
Oh my gosh, probably sounds like a sexual reference. Probably in the back seat of a car. My parents would buy comics to shut me up while we were riding anywhere. The first comic I remember reading was something called what the heck was it? Basically, it was a 1967 25-cent comic put together by Marvel that showed the lineup of ABC's Saturday morning lineup. So it had Fantastic Four and Spider-Man and George of the Jungle and King Kong and some other stuff. And so that one comic gave a wonderful overview of what was out there, because not only did you have the little kid stuff, you had John Romita's Spider-Man and Jack Kirby's Fantastic Four and so forth. So for a young kid reading comics for the first time, that was a pretty wonderful introduction.
Ooh, one might call that amazing introduction to a certain property and character. And you know, hey, he does anything a spider can. He can spin a web any size. Can't you see? Just like flies, look out. There goes the Spider-Man. So there's that throwback. For instance, what would you say were some of your favorite comic book writers or artists growing up, or maybe even today?
Well, growing up, it was obvious. You know, I really loved the Jack Kirby, Stan Lee stuff. The John Romita Spider-Man with Stan, I absolutely loved. Once I got into reading DC's, it just seemed so stodgy. It's like they didn't seem like they were written so much as manufactured. But once we got into Denny O'Neil working with Kurt Swan on the whole Kryptonite Nevermore storyline, that really got me into Superman. I was into Batman, but only to the level that had Neil Adams or Marshall Rogers or somebody like that drawing it, because it seemed to add more to the story. So even a more pedestrian story seemed more interesting. You go back and look at my collection, and I was probably buying half the Marvels. I was buying Superman for a while, just occasional Batmans, but it seemed like my favorite at the time was The Flash, whether it was John Broome or Gardner Fox drawing them or writing them. And once I got out of that and into slightly later years, I was into following Jim Starlin and Steve Englehart and Steve Gerber. I thought Steve Englehart's early run on Doctor Strange was absolutely amazing. And then as I went into adulthood, and I started enjoying the early Frank Miller stuff, and of course I started following Alan Moore when he was writing the stuff in Britain with the Marvel Man stuff and the other stuff coming out of England, and of course I followed him on to Swamp Thing and various other things at DC.
Wow, that's a lot of legendary names. Does that also include the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen?
There reached a point when I was doing comics for full time. How do they say it? Once you know how the sausage is made, it's a little less appealing. I got to the point after writing and especially editing comics for so many years, I couldn't read a comic just for fun anymore. Every comic I pick up, it's like, okay, why isn't that caption 1/16 of an inch to the left? Or why is that balloon tail a little thinner than it should be? Oh, why did they use the uppercase I in the middle of a word? I just start analyzing and breaking through all this stuff. And so my enjoyment is less. So I started following fewer and fewer current comics. I think right now the stuff that I'm enjoying are the more adult things like Sunstone. I've been picking up those graphic novels off Amazon as soon as they're released. I've been going back and buying Marvel Masterworks or the huge artist edition books, and I find myself re-enjoying the stuff I enjoyed as a kid, and knowing that those things were written and drawn very quickly, plus the fact that I had enjoyed them originally, I can go in and reread those without so much analysis and ruining it for myself. So it's interesting after you've been doing this for decades.
I would venture to say so, and it's certainly understandable. But I can also get where you're coming from. Like once you know how the donuts are made, kind of takes the fun out of getting the donuts, or the commercial that always taught us time to make the donuts.
Yeah.
Would that be?
The exception to that seems to be any type of book that I don't do. So if we're not doing like Donald Duck or Uncle Scrooge stuff, I can go in and read, Uncle Scrooge comics, no problem. And I don't have that same problem. So, because I can just read those for the enjoyment. There's no analysis there.
Well, that's completely fair enough. I mean, not to go into the DuckTales universe here for a minute, but outside of the comics, because I haven't really read those, but I remember growing up watching the TV series DuckTales, and I also remember the great animated film DuckTales: Treasure of the Lost Lamp. So
yeah.
I remember those days.
And some of those are kind of based on the Barks or Don Rosa stories. I went and recently just bought this big, thick, oversized hardcover.
Did you?
All the Don Rosa Uncle Scrooge stories done in Europe's gorgeous book, and I've only just started reading it, and so it's like, all right, I'm going to allow myself a little time each week to read a story in there until I eventually get to the end.
Ooh, that is just brilliant, Launchpad. Launchpad, did you not learn how to fly in flight school? You mean you never took flying lessons? Well, I took a crash course. I know, I took a crash course. Now he tells me. Outside of the greatness that is DuckTales, because you mentioned something about DC a moment ago. So between Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams, they did a storyline called Hard Traveling Heroes between Green Lantern and Green Arrow. Did you ever get a chance to read that?
Was that that whole run of stuff? What was that? Late 60s, early 70s? I forget. I read most of them. We didn't get every issue at the local newsstand, which was McNamar's drugstore for me. But I read most of them at the time, and then I bought and reread them 15 years ago, 20 years ago when they came out in a big book. But so a lot of that stuff I enjoy. I mean, I'm a big time comics fan, or I wouldn't have been in it for this long. I've reached a point where a lot of people would be slowing down, and I'm not. It's like a couple of years back, Simon and Schuster reached out to me. We had started doing artwork. I don't know if your audience realizes this, but when they think of comic companies, they think of Marvel, DC, and all that. Not realizing that through the 60s, 70s, 80s, Archie Comics probably outsold them. In more recent years, folks don't realize that book publishers like Simon and Schuster are publishing more comics than most comic publishers right now, but none of them are showing up in the comic shops. They're in bookstores, and I don't think comic readers even think to go in to look for that stuff. But here, looky here.
Always happy for visual aids fans.
Yeah, I mean, Goddess Girls. This is a series of 192-page graphic novels written by me for Simon and Schuster. There's another one. Heroes in Training. 4 volumes of that I wrote for Simon and Schuster. They came to me and offered me a bunch of work, and I did 1,800 pages of comics for them in a 14-month period. Last year.
That's big.
Last year, Simon and Schuster bought from us over 8,000 pages of comic book art. Just think of how many books that is. So that's the kind of, and that's just from us. There are other suppliers, other artists working for Simon and Schuster, but that gives you an idea of the volume of stuff that they publish that most comic readers don't even know about. But we've been doing books like Spirited and Super Turbo and Guardians of Horsa and just a whole bunch of other younger audience titles. And some of them are just mighty wonderful stuff. So I'm just trying to open some eyes out there for what else might be out there. And it's fun kid stuff, but it's full of action, and it's some pretty grand adventure. And so all that stuff is out there for in a market that the most comic fans aren't seeing.
Wow. Well, congratulations on all of that. That is great stuff. And I hope whoever's watching or listening to this episode of FreeWheeling Fridays is going to check out these titles and share them with their family members, their coworkers, kids, and anyone else who may be interested in reading these titles. Because my goodness, I believe it was Heroes in Training. That looks fantastic. I mean, I'm in my 30s, and even I want to read that.
Yeah. And the artist for that is a fellow named Dave Santana, and he's doing a lot of Kickstarter titles these days. And we're going to work on, we are working on one called Hot Wings that'll be out later this year. Sexy angel with wings kind of thing. Perfect for the Kickstarter audience. But he's been doing books for, I think it's Black Ops Publishing, Jinkies, and a few other titles that are all girly stuff. But he has that classic John Buscema, Gil Kane sensibility to the storytelling, to the action, and so everything has energy, has movement to it. So love working with the guy.
I can totally dig that. Once again, this is Freewheeling Fridays with the guest of honor, David Campiti. Campiti is here with us. Do not forget to like and share this with everyone you know. If you're watching us live or what is known as a replay, thank you for doing that. If you have any questions for David, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. Be more than happy to hear from you as we go throughout the course of this program. What would you say are some of your favorite comic book-based movies or TV series, past or present?
Oh, well, when I was a little kid, I really liked, Adam West's Batman. It was the only thing going, so of course I liked it. There wasn't much else out there that a kid could sink their teeth into. These days, it's like, okay, I love the Marvel movies from the first Iron Man up through Endgame, and then I think they lost their way, and haven't really enjoyed any of them since. Just comic book based TV shows. I've followed most of them. The Daredevil and Agents of Shield and Punisher and all that other stuff, but they either come across as low budget or too padded or too slow or too something. So there's always it holds me back and says, well, they're not as good as, say, Buffy the Vampire Slayer or Angel or Firefly, all shows that I absolutely loved.
Understandable. Some things work in the beginning, then they don't work out in the end, or maybe some things look good on paper, but they don't always translate well to a screen. So there's that too. No doubt about it. Which is fair enough. What are your thoughts? I mean, just out of curiosity, that was a bit of a follow-up question to that. What are your thoughts on this new Superman movie coming out this year with James Gunn at the helm?
Well, I'm the type of person that would rather wait to see a movie before I've reviewed it. I've heard everyone's complaints about the costume, and it's like, well, I haven't seen the movie yet. I'm not sure what the costume is going to look like once they finish doing CG work over it like they do on all the movies. Folks don't realize in the Marvel movies that Black Panther's costume is all CG. He's not wearing that on set. So I expect they'll make adjustments. I'm also thinking once they get to the end of the movie, that costume's going to change. Most superhero movies, the character's costume changes from movie to movie to movie, so they have something different to license. So I kind of expect that that's going to happen in that movie. But when they first started talking about a Superman movie, and they said, okay, it's not going to be Henry Cavill because he's aging out of it, and they want a 20-something guy. It's like, all right. I started looking online and said, "Ooh, this guy David Cornsweet sounds interesting." Then months later, they announced him. It's like, okay, this might work. Then they got Mrs. Maisel herself, or Rachel Brosnahan as
Lois Lane.
Lois Lane. It's like, oh, if they do it fast paced and funny with her character, like I'm trying to remember the name of the old movie with Rosalind Russell playing a lady reporter off Cary Grant. That movie had the actors being just so sarcastic, funny, fast dialogue. If they do it like that, she's going to be absolutely perfect for the character, and it could be a lot of fun. I saw a lot of pomp and circumstance in the preview, but I want to see the movie. I'll be there opening weekend.
Yeah, that's understandable. I mean, I'm a massive Superman fan. I've said this before on this show and other shows I've done in the past. I'm a massive Superman fan. I take Superman very seriously and passionately because I love the character so much. So I'm curious to see where this goes. I'm looking forward to see what David brings to the table. I'm looking forward to see what Rachel Brosnahan brings to the table and some of the other cast members that are going to be thrown in the mix. Because in the trailer we get, Guy Gardner's Green Lantern. You get Hawkgirl in the mix. So I'm like, okay, you're getting some JL big heavy hitters in this madhouse. So
my only hope is that the Superman story doesn't get overwhelmed.
Exactly.
Just like in some of the
sequels,
some of the superhero movies,
mm-hmm.
They start out, with one villain, and then it's two villains, and that's three villains, and then Michael Keaton's Batman.
Batman Returns.
Yeah, Batman Returns. Okay, that was at least one villain too many. And it's like there was so much with Catwoman and Penguin,
mm-hmm.
that okay, Batman was kind of halfway lost in the story, and so there's enough of a world there that they can do great stuff with. Let's see what they do.
Exactly. Yeah. Anything is possible. Anything can happen. Let's wait and see when the movie comes out later on this year in 2025, shall we? Because I am a massive Superman fan. Let's make this thing work. Hopefully we'll make it work, people. Make it work. There's a pop culture catchphrase from a while back. But anyway, what made you decide to become an artist / animator, or get into animation and artistry and all that kind of stuff?
Well, when I was a kid, living in Wheeling, West Virginia, a coal mine and steel mill town with no coal mines or steel mills. So a town that's, I guess, getting more depressed every year, unfortunately. There I was. I wanted to grow up working with Stan Lee, write comic books, do something in animation, and do cartoon voices. And so later on, I got to write comics. I got to work with Stan Lee on and off for 20 years, doing stuff with POW Entertainment. Then I had the opportunity to produce animation and do cartoon voice. So I covered it all. It was great. When I was in the Philippines, I had to have an office over there. Had it for many years. And my partner over there was starting to do animation for some commercials, and they had a bank of Wacom Cintiqs set up, and he was starting to do all this stuff. And I'm looking and saying, well, could we animate whole cartoons with this? He said, sure. Well, okay, then why don't we try doing that? So we didn't want to go out and just tell people we could do it. We wanted to actually do it. So he raised some money and got a lot of support from Philippines businesses. So we created an animated feature with, get this, swappable advertising. There's product placement in a lot of films, but of course you don't see that in animation. Well, we figured out a way that you could swap out, vitamins and signs in the background and all this other stuff. And so we kind of sold that space in the animated film and released it in the Philippines as Dio, the Wanderer. It was about a kid who ends up meeting the Filipino monsters of myth. And it won the Metro Manila Film Festival Award that year. We then tweaked the movie a bit, did it in English. I did a bunch of the voices for that. And it got released here in the US on Hulu, I think. And it was released on DVD internationally as Niko, The Journey to Magika. And so that was the first one. Basically, we put our money where our mouth was and made our first feature film to prove we could do it. And then we went out from there showing his commercial work and the animated feature that we did. And we started getting more animation jobs in here. So we'd get hired to do, design work on this project over here. Get to do 30 seconds of animation from existing assets for this thing over here. Oh, we need you to do 95% of the work on a movie called El Americano, which was a produced out of Mexico by Edward James Olmos' production company, produced in Spanish and English at the same time, and that was on Netflix for a while, and so we did that. And then we did a bunch of other little things. Most recently, it came out and it's available on YouTube. Is called Christmas with Grubs, which was a Christmas TV cartoon for Keen Spot Entertainment. So that was kind of fun to do. And now we're in pre-production for what I hope will be a feature in the next couple of years, project called Thunder SARS. So we will see.
Ooh, interesting stuff. This is very excellent, Smithers. Congratulations on all of that. That is more phenomenal and more ways than one, if I do say so myself. It truly is. I'm being genuine when I say this kind of stuff. It's fantastic. So you've been able to do voiceover. You've been able to work here and there. I mean, anywhere and everywhere. That's really, really good stuff. What would you say are some of the rewards about being an artist?
Well, working any kind of in any kind of creative space, you feel like you're accomplishing something, even if it's not something you own. If it's something you're writing, drawing, whatever for somebody else, you're getting it done. Other people are seeing it. It's kind of it feels good that you've gotten it done. But like most creators, there's a bit of hating doing it, but you like seeing it finished. I myself, working on projects, I find I can get into a pretty good groove. When I said I did 1,800 pages of writing for Simon & Schuster in a 14-month period, it was just getting myself into the headspace that I had to get by the calendar 5 pages done a day, every day, no matter what. And once you're in that headspace, you can do it. Some days you might struggle to get 5 pages done. Other days you're on a roll and you're up till 3 in the morning and you've gotten 16 pages done. It's like, oh, I can take tomorrow off. And but there has to be an element of really enjoying what you're doing. And I've been enjoying what I've been doing for a lot of years.
Excellent stuff. And all of that is great. On the flip side of the coin, though, what are the biggest challenges about being an artist?
That you've got to deal with those deadlines. That same thing, getting into the headspace of getting 5 pages a day. It's like, oh God, you've got to put your whole life on hold and do this because you've made a commitment to do it. Probably the strongest example of that would have come around, this goes back a ways, 2009. I get a call. The publisher wanted to do an update of Stan Lee's the How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way that he did in the latter half of the 70s, where he wrote text around all the graphics that John Buscema had created for his How to Draw. I think it was a six evening seminar. Stan had put that together in the 70s, and now here the publisher wanted a new version. And the way I heard it, they went to him and said, well, we want to do a new version of this, but we want it really updated, current, contemporary. We wanted to talk all about Photoshop and Google SketchUp and different animation drawing programs and really up to the minute stuff. Google SketchUp, what the hell is that? So he had no idea. He hadn't really worked in comics except for the occasional dialogue job for half a century. And somehow he suggested my name, or my name came up, and they gave me a call because I had ghosted a couple of his introductions. And I get this call early November. And they said, well, we need you to do this, and we need you to have it done by the end of the year. All right. When they called me, I was in the Philippines, and they wanted it done by the end of that year. So I was away from my office. I didn't have any of my stuff here. And by the time contracts came through, when I got the go ahead, it was December 8th, and they wanted me to finish a 228-page book by December 31st, and also arrange to get all the new artwork for it. Well, like an idiot, I said yes, and I got it done because I said I was going to get it done. So the wonderful thing is, I can look back on it, and I wrote Stan Lee's How to Draw Comics that came out in 2010, 2011, and there's my name inside the book. Okay? You know, I really wrote this, and so I'm happy and proud of that. But the hard work of getting it done on time, even if the deadlines seem to be impossible, is the tough part of the business. So you never enjoy the deadlines, but I guess the targets give us something to do, and sometimes the juices get flowing because you've got to get it done.
Well, maybe sometimes the deadline can appear as a ticking clock on that hit TV series we watched back in the day known as 24.
On the next 24, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, right, yes. Great actor Kiefer Sutherland and company. No less, one might say. But once again, this is indeed Freewheeling Fridays with the guest of honor. David Campiti is here with us. Do not forget to like and share this with everyone you know if you're joining us live or what is known as a replay. Thank you so much for doing that. If you have any questions for David, please, by all means, drop them in the comments, drop them in the chat. We love hearing from you kind folks. Love hearing from you kind folks out there. That is for certain. That's what I was getting at. That's the word. Gee whiz. But outside of that, I have something I want to share with you and with you who may be watching and listening to this right now. Before I get to that, what advice would you give to aspiring artists out there?
Understand that this is a business, but realize that I have been an agent for artists for, coming up on 32 years. I started Glasshouse Graphics as an artist agency in March of 1993. If you go to our website, you'll see we rep close to 200 artists, inkers, letterers, colorists, designers, cover painters, animators from all over the world. So as you might guess, I get hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of portfolios. And it astounds me that so many artists don't understand the most basic part of getting a portfolio over. I mean, they'll label individual files, 1 JPEG, 2 JPEG, 3 JPEG, art JPEG, art 2 JPEG. Unless their name is art, it doesn't do anything to help me identify who drew them. Because what will tend to happen is I or any editor that will receive these things, they may not get an email, download the file, examine the artwork, write a response, send it immediately. They may see it's there, download it to their computer. When they have a chance at lunch or something, they open it and take a look, and then they don't know who sent it because the artist didn't think it important enough to put his or her own name on it. So many's been the situation where I couldn't even respond to somebody because I wasn't going to go back through the 300 samples that I got over the past week to figure out who this person was. If they didn't think it important enough to put their name on it, then I wasn't going to chase after them. So something that basic, putting their name on something, is missing from a lot of people's things. Artists don't think to put themselves in the editor's shoes. They want to draw sequential comics, but they don't send in any sequential comics. So the editor gets it and sees all these pin-up pieces, characters standing like this, gritting their teeth, or some sexy posed female that they found when going to Pornhub or wherever they were looking, and um, drawing that. None of that having anything to do with comics. Comics is sequential storytelling, and then you get them. It's like, well, give me a chance. Well, the artist didn't give himself or herself a chance by doing some sequential pages for consideration. If they haven't mastered sequential storytelling, they aren't going to magically get the ability to do it after only doing pinups just because somebody hired them. Many's been the time that someone has even done up a portfolio, but the portfolio isn't a realistic example of what they've done. Here's a story for you. This will tell you an idea what not to do. I had an artist come up to me at a convention a bunch of years ago, show me an absolutely wonderful portfolio. It was like a 10 or 12 page full pencil sequence of Superman at the Daily Planet with Lois. For some reason, this artist decided he was going to draw his own face and hair instead of Superman's. I still don't know why. Maybe it was to prove that he actually drew the pages or something. But they were great. The storytelling was strong. It had this really powerful Neil Adams vibe to it. And it's like, all right, I will hire you to do a book. Can you do a monthly? Well, yeah, of course. All right, I'm going to pad it and give you an extra week on it. 22-page story. Here it is. Submit layouts on the whole thing first for me to review. And then let's get this done. If this issue works, I'll give you more. Perfect for an artist just starting out, right? Offered a professional rate for the time, and he gets started. A week passes, nothing. 2 weeks pass, nothing. 3 weeks pass, nothing. He's not returning phone calls. We write him. It's all before internet. 3 days after the deadline, I get a package from the guy with like 4 unfinished pages. That's it. He sent back sent 4 pages, incomplete, with the script, no cover note, no explanation, no nothing. Every single panel was an obvious swipe from Neil Adams. And over time, I got to hear from other editors that would tell me they had run into the same guy, showing them the same samples, and the same thing happened. And years later, I came across that artist at another convention. He had his portfolio open. Now it was photocopies of those same pages because those originals had yellowed. He had them stuffed in the back of the portfolio, but now he had those same pages out. It's like, I don't know, maybe this guy took a year or 2 years or whatever the hell it was to create the perfect set of comic book samples to get a job. But he could never do that on any type of deadline. And years later, he was still fooling editors into giving him assignments. But of course, there was never a completed assignment or a second assignment from those editors. Years later than that, I finally came across him having done a few books for small press, but they were loaded with swipes. They were horribly inconsistent. And it showed the guy never did get a real career out of it because, he just couldn't do the job. And I don't know, I guess decided to spend half of his life convincing other people that he could when he knew he couldn't. So that's a career that's gone nowhere. And I compare that with, I had another artist who came to me and said, I know I can draw, but I can't tell a story in pictures. Can you teach that to me? And I look at his portfolio, and thank goodness, none of it is generic pinups. It's all this beautiful stuff. Teenage boy and teenage girl sitting up in a tree, flirting with one another, and the boy has his little brother with him who's like pulling on his shirt and making it kind of awkward. Or an individual drawing of this woman running through the streets with her little daughter, using a newspaper to cover the both of them as the rain is pouring down, and they're splashing water through this alley. The whole portfolio was this, and I said, you already know how to tell a story. You're doing it in individual pictures. Now you just need to do that in panels. So I worked with him for a few months, having him do samples off of existing or newly created scripts. And it became clear he was so good at it. I went out and got him work right away. Artist's name is Wilson Tortosa. He went on to do Battle of the Planets and Lara Croft Tomb Raider and Wolverine manga, and just so many other things over the years. And he's still with my Glass House Graphics, and we're still getting projects for him after my gosh, 20 something years. So that's the right way and the wrong way to go about this.
Both sides of the fence here, ladies and gentlemen, for sure. By the way, Lara Croft Tomb Raider, man, that's cool. I got to read me some Lara Croft Tomb Raider. My gosh. Man, I remember watching the live-action adaptations with Angelina Jolie, and then they rebooted it with Alicia Vikander not too long ago, and then unfortunately that sequel never came to pass, which is unfortunate because the reboot wasn't that good, but it had potential if they made a sequel. But then again, I do remember playing the rebooted Tomb Raider series of games on Xbox 360, if I remember correctly. Fun stuff in case you were looking for an action-adventure game to dive into, even though Tomb Raider has been around for a lot longer than that. But still... But no, that's really cool. I got to see this individual's work, to a certain degree. I got to look this person. And the other thing is, Simon and Schuster. I got to start buying more books from them and some of the things that you and your wonderful people over there are doing. Because my goodness, man, looks fabulous.
Yeah, you'll see some interesting stuff coming out. You know, there's so much being published right now. Some wonderful stuff in comics that simply is not making it into the comic shops. I don't know what's going to make it into the comic shops with Diamond and their bankruptcy proceedings, but that's a whole different thing. But not just the stuff that's coming out with Simon and Schuster and some of the other book publishers, but some amazing stuff is coming out through Kickstarter. I mean, I figure you know you're big on TV shows and movies here, so I'm sure you're familiar with either the old or the new or both versions of Quantum Leap.
Yes.
All right. Co-creator of Quantum Leap is a wonderful lady named Deborah Pratt. She co-created the show with her husband. She's been executive producer of the show. She's the voice of. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the robotic character or whatever that's in it. And she's written and directed for the show. Now, decades ago, when the original Quantum Leap was going on, I was publisher of Innovation Comics, and we did a licensed Quantum Leap comic. And then that was so long ago. But last year, I get a call out of the blue from Deborah Pratt. She said, "Oh, I went into my storage facility and came across those wonderful Quantum Leap comics that you did. And it made me want to get in contact with you because I want to do a new comic book with you." And I said, "We're going to do more Quantum Leap?" She said, No. I have a teleplay for a show called Warrior One that is that's based on a series of novels that I've written that's for sale on Amazon. But I have this unproduced pilot that I would like done as a graphic novel. And she sent it to me. I read it. We talked it out. And I said, "Okay, I can make this into a graphic novel." She said, "But I want it to be great." And I said, "Well, I have some really great artists like Will Conrad." Well, who's Will Conrad? I sent her examples of his work with Marvel and DC and AWA. And she said, "Oh my God, I've got to have Will Conrad." So the next year, which I guess is the end of 2024, Warrior One graphic novel, Deborah Pratt, Will Conrad, and me.
Well, well, well. In the
Yeah.
words of Futurama, shut up and take my money.
But it's lovely artwork. It is cream of the crop, Marvel, DC, AWA level work. And this isn't in the comic shops. It's not even in the bookstores.
I want one.
But you can go on to Kickstarter, and I think they have their order them afterwards stuff, and it's there. But this is a grand and glorious book, and if enough people would buy this, we'd do another one. But give you another example. We've got a lot of Mike Deodato fans out there, but for the most part, comic shops have never carried his Jade Warriors. Jade Warriors was a series that Deodato and writer Mike Buckley and I did at Image Comics in 1999, 2000, something like that. And we did a few issues, but we never finished the story. So we finally went in and we completed Jade Warriors, and this has been on Kickstarter. But look at this. This is the size of a regular comic book, so we did it absolute edition size with the slipcase, and I mean, so it's just some gorgeous Deodato artwork. But most folks don't even know this exists. But this is out there, and we did this absolute edition, and we did a regular edition hardcover. And for those who couldn't afford any of those, next month I'm going to do a Kickstarter of a softcover edition with Playmate Lisa Marie Scott on the front and back cover.
Gee willikers.
Knew Lisa years ago. I got permission from her and
no kidding,
and photographer Mark Don to do these. But just gorgeous artwork. So that's going to be coming. So there's just so much out there that comic readers are not seeing if they don't go beyond the friendly neighborhood comic shop, because Diamond hasn't carried the stuff, or because Diamond doesn't do anything to promote anything that's not from a major. It's just buried in the catalog, and retailers don't notice it. Deodato is one of the hottest sellers in the comic biz these days, but Diamond bought a whopping 170 copies of that absolute edition to sell it to the entire world.
Wow, that
170? There seemed to be some zeros missing off of that.
That Warrior one looks so good. I want one so bad.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious, I want. By the way, some people have chimed in here. Whitefire Comics says, "Hey yo," as Scott Hall might say, "Hey yo," pro wrestling reference. By the way, Levi brought this up, not me, but he brought it up, and I'm glad that you did, Levi. The spinner rack behind you looks great. Tell us about it.
All right, comic book spinner rack. I had a spinner rack in my office or den since about 1988 when I launched Innovation. I bought one of the old spinner racks, and they're 60 pounds, and they have the base with the pole, and all the rack pieces are welded as one, and that thing is heavy to move around. You want to take it to a convention, you can't fit it in your car without busting up your seats or your dash, which I did once. And so last year I saw so many people online saying, "Oh, I would love to have a comic book spinner rack for my den or for my office, or some publishers were saying, we'd like to have some of those too. And I thought, well, why not? Nobody's offering a spinner rack at an affordable price. Diamond has had a 44 pocket spinner rack with the topper on it's pretty crappy, but they've had that in their catalog on and off for years. But the retailers I talked to said it's always out of stock. And when it is in stock, it's like $400 and it's $200 to ship. So like $600. So that got me thinking. I went to looking on eBay, on Amazon, doing a Google search, and I was seeing comic racks anywhere from $700 to $1,200. And I thought, this is crazy. So I started looking at ways that I could produce a new comic rack for the market. And then I discovered one of the awful catches of it is the damn thing is 6 feet tall, which means all the charges for shipping it, you couldn't ship a comic rack from one side of the country to the other for less than $200. Well, I had to do better. So I'm sitting there and it's like, well, why can't we come up with a full-size 40-pocket comic rack that can disassemble in like 5 minutes or 8 minutes? Just take it apart in pieces, put it into a zippered bag with a wheel, and just pull it along. So I designed one. And I went out, I found a manufacturer that would do it. And then once we figured out the sizing configuration and all that, we ran the numbers. Like, oh my God, I can ship this thing for less than $60. All right. That means I can offer a comic rack for under $400 delivered. And the wonderful part was it fell into this wonderful little shipping exception that I could ship it to Canada for $25 more, or I could ship it to Europe for just $50 more. And I thought, this is great. So a lot of places in the world, including Australia, I can ship it there too. So Europe, United States, Canada, Australia, I could ship this comic rack for 25 or 50 or $75. In the US, under $400 delivered in white or black, assembles or disassembles in just a few minutes. You can buy it with an optional canvas zippered 3-wheeled bag that's been designed just for that. And there it is. And if you unfortunately can't see it from the angle I've got there, but the topper on it, it comes with 2 toppers, so it's 2 on each side of the same graphic. Best in Comics, World's Greatest Comics, and we also sell it with 2 other toppers, but we can customize it any way somebody wants. A comic shop wants to buy them and put their own logo on all 4 sides or 2 of the sides. We can do that. A chain of comic shops or a bunch of publishers wants to order 10 of them. We can do them any color they want. They want pink, purple, green, blue, whatever. We can do sets of 10, any color customized, any logo customized, and we can give them a wholesale price if they order 10 or more. But individuals ordering under $400 delivered, and the Kickstarter is going on right now.
That is one heck of a good-looking spinner rack. And it's a great idea. It's brilliant. It's smart. I think a lot of shops out there would want one, absolutely. So we'll do our best to share that link out and get the word out about this campaign and make sure people can contribute if they can, and share it with their friends and their friends, because you know how these things go. If you share one thing, it becomes 10 shares. 10 shares becomes 1,000, and so on and so forth when the numbers roll in.
I would like that a whole lot. Somebody asked me the other day, why are you doing a comic rack? I mean, you produce comics for publishers, but why are you doing a comic rack? That's so out of what you usually do. I said, yeah, but hearing so many people saying they wanted an affordable rack, and in all the decades, well over half a century that these comic racks have existed, Nobody's ever put together one that can be disassembled, reassembled, so you can take it to conventions or store it if you don't need it. So it's kind of like a way of giving back to the comic business. When I bought my first comics at McNamar's drugstore, they had 2 black comic racks there. And one had all the Marvels, one had all the DCs, and some of my best early memories of buying comics were right off those racks. So anybody who wants a comic rack now can get it.
There you go. That's brilliant. Sign up, get it, own it. You know, in the words of Shia LaBeouf, just do it. Anyway, Shia LaBeouf would agree. So, yeah. No, that's great stuff. Outside of that, because you mentioned Glass House Graphics a moment ago, I want to share this with you and with you, maybe watching or listening to this. Glass House Studios, what's that all about?
All right. So where Glass House Graphics was all about the print media, where we obviously offer artists, design and production services. We'll handle printing for clients if they need it, editorial services. Glass House Studios is the other side of that. It's for film and television. We work with the brilliant Kevin Van Hook, who's a comic guy from way back, but he's currently does visual effects for films. He's also a film writer and director. So we're able to offer visual effects for clients doing live action. We can do opening and closing credits and all that stuff. But Glass House Studios is my company division that handles all the animation stuff that we talked about. So we can do the 2D animation, we can do full theatrical quality CG animation, we can even do stuff that looks like Arcane. If you've been following that on Netflix, that's I saw Arcane and thought, oh, that is an amazing style. And I went back with my people. It's like, okay, how do we do this and make it affordable for our clients? And we figured out a way. So right now we're negotiating with a client that we hope we'll get to do a series that way. So so Glass House Studios is it's the bigger budget stuff because it's all TV and movie stuff, but I'm glad to be doing it.
Oh, that's great stuff. Teamwork does, in fact, make the dream work, folks. So Glass House Graphics and Glass House Studios, links are located in the description of this video. So make sure you check out those links, find out more about them and all the wonderful things that they're doing. You mentioned this earlier, too, and I would like to address this if we could. When you were working with the man himself, Stan the Man Lee, what were your interactions with him like?
Usually fun. Because I'm a fanboy from way back, and I know all the stories and all the problems and all that, but it was still fun to get a call from Stan here to the office. It's like for the longest time, even if we weren't working on anything, he would phone up once a month. Hey, Dave, what's going on in the comic biz? I should probably know something. And I'd tell him from our perspective what was going on and what was selling and what wasn't selling and so forth. So it was fun having those calls. I got a call one day that ended up being the oddest series of conversations with Stan. Dave, I got looks like I'm going to be writing a book, Superman versus the Hulk. Would Mike Deodato like to draw it? Sure. Well, see if he'd be interested in doing it from a plot, because I'm not going to do a full script. You know how I work. And I said, well, Deodato doesn't really plot or write much in the way of stories, but I'm sure I could help you with that. I could write the page-by-page plot, have you go over it, and if you like it, then he could draw it. Great, let's do that. And he gave me a name of an editor to call at Marvel. I did. For 3 weeks, I kept calling, never getting a call back. Stan would call me and say, well, when are we starting? I haven't heard from the editor. Have you? Not a word. So I kept trying. Finally, I got a call back from, I forget if it was the editor or his assistant, that was basically, well, Dave, you must have misunderstood. Stan didn't mean to say that he wanted Deodato to draw Superman versus the Hulk. He meant someday maybe a book like that. And I picked up the phone because he was leaving the message. Got to it. It's like, not right here. Here's the notes. Here's the notes. Here are his exact words. I wrote them down. And he said, nope, you must have misunderstood. And the editor hung up on me. I thought, oh, that is weird. So I called Stan, who was on his way to New York. I guess it was at that same time he went in to be there with his lawyer to fight for his new contract. And he said, well, I'm really pissed at Marvel about a whole bunch of things. And so he went in to talk to him about that. We never did get to do it. I think the book ended up being done by, I don't know, Roger Stern and Steve Rude or something like that. And it was much different than what we had talked about doing. But the way the editor sort of side treated Stan and the way the editor treated us over it, for even having a contact with Stan, just seemed really odd. But so it led me to realize there's a bunch of weirdness and tensions that were going on at Marvel at the time that had to do with him. But aside from that, we would get calls. It's like my company did all the artwork for both seasons of Stan Lee's Who Wants to Be a Superhero. Do you remember that show?
Yeah, I do. Yes, I remember seeing promos for that and whatnot. Yeah.
There were, in both seasons, there were like these giant size blow-ups of covers that were shown to the contestants. You know, if you win, you get a comic book done. We did all those covers, and then when the guys who won each of the two seasons, what was it? Jarrett Crippen won the second season as the diffuser, and the first one, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name. We did the winners comic for both of those seasons, and I've had Jarrett Crippen's even been to my house to vacation, so that was pretty cool. But so we got to work with Stan on those comics. Stan scripted at least the first one and worked with, again, artist Will Conrad on that. So he was calling my office about it. He was calling Will Conrad. So there was a lot of fanboy joy there of actually getting to work with Stan on a comic like I had always wanted to do. And we did work on like comic inserts for some of the animated DVDs that they had produced, and he'd call me about those before his people would send us the details. So that was always nice. You know, sometimes I'd get him and he'd be a little more subdued, but most of the time I'd get him and he'd be his usual Stan being on.
Yeah.
But he was always very gracious. I had all these people would say, you know, Stan has the excuse of a terrible memory as the reason he does what he does. And yet he came to a Pittsburgh Comic Con, I forget 2009. And, or 2009. And I saw him there and Dave, how are you doing? And he turns to my wife, Jinky, how are you doing? And he bends over, looks at my daughter, Jasmine, so are you in kindergarten yet? You're 4 now, right? He remembered my wife's name, remembered my daughter's name, remembered how old she is, knew me on sight. That's not too bad for a guy who was at the time, you know, something like 85 or whatever. And so I was very appreciative of how gracious he always was at these shows, and the fact that he remembered me and my family.
Oh, that's great stuff. In the words of Stanley, Excelsior. That's great stuff. Once again, we are here with the guest of honor, David Campiti, here on this episode of Freewheeling Fridays. Do not forget to like and share this with everyone you know. And if you're joining us live or on the replay, thank you for doing that. Thank you for all your thoughts and comments down below. We've had a few of them already. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate all of you. Did Stan ever give you the fist pump or give you a thumbs up by saying Excelsior to you? Did you
Oh,
ever drop that?
of course. When uh, several times, I don't want to say many times, several times I was though I never got to visit his office at POW Entertainment. I'd do San Diego Con, and he'd have me call his assistant, and we'd schedule a time, and we'd meet at a bar or something at the hotel or whatever. And I would bring along my artists from Brazil. So sometimes I'd have 4 or 5, 6 artists that I'd be with, and he would be gracious, take the time to talk to all of them, sign their books, tell little anecdotes, take pictures with them, and Stan obviously enjoyed just being out there being Stan, and so it was always nice that he was willing to give us the time.
Even better. Any other special memories for you from being at conventions or other events, whether you're there as a vendor or there as an attendee?
Many, because I've been to so many of these shows.
You've had a long career, and you don't look a day over 25, which is insane.
So I do this one show in, I think it was in Portland, or it might have been Seattle. I forget. I was there with Mike Diodato. And there's I'm sorry, sometimes names fall out of my head. Star of Quantum Leap.
Oh, you mean Scott Bakula?
Scott Bakula, yes, I'm sorry. So we're there, and he's a guest there. I had seen Scott Bakula in person for maybe 4 seconds decades earlier, where he waved at us as he was going to a Quantum Leap convention, and I had a booth set up there because I was a Quantum Leap vendor, and but that was it. And we got a chance to talk to him face to face, and the line wasn't too busy, and someone took us up so we could talk to him. So it's Mike Diodato, who drew the best of the Quantum Leap issues, and myself, who had published the whole line of Quantum Leaps. And knowing he was going to be there, we had 2 sets of the Quantum Leap comic. One that we wanted to see if he'd sign them for us, and one that Mike Diodato and I signed for him. And so we go up, we start talking, we give him those, and say, "Oh, I appreciate these. Oh, I loved these comics when they came out. They were so nice." He picks one up, does not open it, says, "I love this issue so much," and he proceeds to tell me the plot of the issue without opening it up. And it's like, all right, unless somebody had just handed him a Quantum Leap comic to look through moments ago, that is quite a memory, because those books came out decades ago. And so I don't know when he opened them, but the fact that he not only talked about how much he had appreciated him, but could tell us the plot from one without even opening the book.
Man.
It also says something about how editors should be doing more books where the cover art tells the story that reflects what's in the book instead of a generic pinup. So he was able to see that and reminded him of the entire story. So I was glad of that. We got pictures with him. That was a wonderful moment.
Way to go, Dr. Sam Beckett. Because that's the character that he portrayed.
Yeah.
On Quantum Leap. He was on so many things before and since then, which is insane. That guy's had a heck of a career, for sure. Whether it's, the Quantum Leaps, whether there was a TV series on TNT some years ago called Men of a Certain Age that he did with Andre Braugher. And I forget the other actor. It's not coming to me at this point. But anyway, he's got range as an actor. He's got range. He's good. Yeah. Scott Bakula is good. He knows his stuff, and he's leading the team in the charge right now in NCIS New Orleans, so he's got a bit of a second life with that show going. So way to go, man. If I ever get a chance to see Scott Bakula at a convention, I'd like to pick his brain about some of the things I've seen him in. So that ought to be fun, if that should ever come to pass, as one might say. Fantastic stuff. Goodness gracious, man. I'm telling you, this has been one of the best conversations we've had on any of our shows, and also hearing your stories, man. That is so money, they don't even know it. And he also says that Scott Bakula is a musician. Is that true? Is he a musician? Has he dabbled in music at all, Scott Bakula? That's a good question.
I wouldn't know. I would assume so.
Probably.
Uh,
Maybe that's what Whitefire Comics is getting at.
Heaven knows he was great, so great on Quantum Leap because as a performer, he could sing, he could dance, he could do all this stuff. He could play serious, he could play comedy, and a character that has to live as other characters needs to have a wide range of skills. So that showed he was a real actor.
Ah, gotcha. Oh, Whitefire says I saw a captain's, maybe a Star Trek captain special, because he was in Star Trek Enterprise. So let's not forget about that. That's
Yes,
another thing that's got
4 seasons.
Yeah, he was in Star Trek Enterprise, if I remember correctly. So there was that. Shortest lived of all the other series, but then again, it was on UPN. There were creative things going on behind the scenes that were outside of a lot of people's control. So don't blame Scott Bakula for that. It wasn't his fault. It wasn't, clearly. Anyone you're looking forward to meeting at conventions that you haven't met as of yet?
Oh man.
Anybody at all that you would just be like dying to like pick their brain or like
Well, there are a couple of celebrities that I would like to have longer conversations with, because the few minutes I might have with them, and I've been grateful for the opportunities I've had, both because I've licensed books and as a result was able to talk to the stars of the shows or the films or whatever. So that's been wonderful. I've also had folks who run conventions that were willing to take me backstage, and I know you want to meet the star of Firefly. So and I got those opportunities, but a chance to sit with some of them and talk longer would be nice. I can tell you the fan is going to come out, and myself and my daughter at MegaCon. We're going just on Saturday when it comes to Orlando. I put down the bucks, and my daughter Jasmine and I are going to go get pictures with Doctor Who and Clara. We are big Doctor Who fans. And we got pictures with Matt Smith when my daughter was 6 years old and the show was on the air, and she was so happy to meet him. The tears were coming down her eyes, just tears of joy. And the picture she has with him from when she was 6, she's so happy it looks like she's drunk. Oh,
goodness gracious!
Smile was just so bright. So this comes at an auspicious time because my daughter and I take some time each week to do our geeky fan things. Currently, we take 3 hours a week. She'll make fish fingers and custard, and we'll watch 2 episodes of Doctor Who, rewatching, because we watched them, as I say, back when she was a little kid. And we'll watch 2 episodes of Gravity Falls. And right now we are in the Matt Smith and joins up with Jenna Coleman's Clara, and so we're right on that. And I saw them announced as doing photos, so we'll do that at the convention. So yeah, even at this age, let a little fanboy creep in.
All good things. Hello, sweetie. Spoilers. Great stuff. There's no question there. Levi says, love Scott Bakula's take on Star Trek when he was in Star Trek Enterprise. I think is it Addie? Am I saying this right? Addie Evans says, great stuff on Stan Lee. I would love to meet the originals from TMNT. I'm assuming you mean the original creators, which in this case is Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird.
Yeah.
So, which is understandable because Kevin Eastman's going to be at a Comic-Con that I'm going to in the month of April, and I'm a massive TMNT fan from way back in the 90s when the movies were coming out, son. So I am jazzed to meet Kevin Eastman. So
I'll tell you a little Kevin Eastman story.
Oh, what, you got something on Cowabunga over there? What do you got?
It has nothing to do with Ninja Turtles, but
Oh.
you may remember a bunch of years ago,
Mm-hmm.
he was co-publisher with, I think the company was Tundra,
Mm-hmm.
and we were doing a bunch of work for them, and they hired Mike Deodato to do in a fully painted airbrush style a full issue of this. It was some sort of female warrior comic book. It was just one issue, and it was like 30, I forget, 30 some pages. He did the whole issue. It's never been published because apparently there was a falling out with whoever the writer was. So the book never came out. So all this original art is sitting in Deodato's files that if somebody would come along, could shuffle pages and write a brand new story around it, then maybe that could finally come out. I remember Kevin Eastman at the time saying, we don't own the artwork, but you can't use the original story. But if you can someday do something with it, you have my blessing. But it's just been sitting there for decades. So the beautiful, beautiful art job by Deodato that nobody's ever seen.
My goodness gracious! Well, that's going to be it's going to be one for the books.
That's something else a lot of folks don't realize. Fans have no concept of how many thousands of pages of finished comic book art are out there by established professionals that have never made it to the stands. People who follow like DC Comics history are aware that DC Comics had their implosion, and there were a bunch of comics never published, and they talked about how they made 100 or 200 photocopies of all that stuff and bound it together and released it among their fellow staffers as Canceled Comics Cavalcade 1 and 2. And so those things were never officially really published. But beyond that, there are just so many thousands of pages of finished comics that nobody has seen. Publishers have gone belly up, or artists and writers were working on projects and the publisher had stiffed them, so they weren't going to turn in the last issue or whatever it is. We were doing a look through before the holidays here, and I realized we probably have 400, maybe 500 pages of unpublished comics that are either finished or nearly finished that nobody's ever seen. Just astounding.
Undiscovered realms and dimensions of stories. Sorry, I'm going on a bit of a random tangent there. But anyway, I think anyone in the chat would catch my drift. And by the way, Addie says that sounds great about some of the stories you've shared with us thus far. And then Whitefire Comics says, I meet Kevin Eastman up here in Ottawa, which is in Canada. Okay, that's cool. Hope your meeting goes well with him, or it has.
Sweet. Yeah. I've never met either of the guys in person. It's kind of amazing. It's like I've probably met more celebrities out of the comic business than I have people in the comic business, because I'll do that. There was a time period when I was doing 6 or 7 conventions a year. Back in late 80s, early 90s, before a lot of the people following this were even born, I was doing conventions as publisher of innovation. So we were, I was there promoting all the books that we did, and I was pretty much stuck at the booth talking with fans and creators that came in. Then after that, when I became an agent, I was agenting to editors, to publishers, to art directors. I wasn't dealing so much with writers or artists that I didn't represent. So there's this whole massive group of artists across the decades that I never had a chance to meet either. So I see some of these people. Oh, I look forward to meeting this person and that person. Yeah, I'd like to meet them too. A goodly number of them I might have talked to on the phone or something, but have never gotten together in person just because paths never crossed. They weren't at the same convention I was, or whatever it might be. And looking back, I was like, wow, I really missed some opportunities there, especially when I stopped doing so many conventions once I moved to Florida.
Ah,
I used to do, as I said, 6 or 7 conventions. I would do San Diego just about every year, of course. But I would do any convention that I got invited to. And, oh, well, we're paying your way, or we'll give you a hotel, or we'll at least give you booth space. Sure. When I lived in Wheeling, West Virginia, it was an 8 or 9 hour drive, and I could do Chicago and Detroit and New York, and the conventions in Jersey and Atlantic City, whatever. Now I'm down here in Orlando, and I got to catch a plane to go everywhere. So it's much more complicated, and to ship a booth and stuff to display or artwork to sell or any of that. So it's why do we even bother? So at this point, the only convention I'd done in the past 5 years was New York Comic Con this past October.
oh, Javits Center. Okay, my friend was there. He was an attendee. He wasn't like at a well. He did help a friend of his at a booth for a little bit of the time, but he was also walking around and meeting celebrities. And he also got a copy of the book. I believe it's called Batman Resurrection, written by John Jackson Miller, which I'm looking forward to reading because it's a direct sequel to the original 1989 Tim Burton Batman film. It takes place in that same universe. It takes place like months, like less than a year after the events of the first movie, which is great because there's never really been any stories told in that part of the Batman original, the original cinematic universe timeline, if you want to call it that. And I'm a huge 89 Batman Tim Burton fan, so I love that movie to pieces. But yeah, he got me a copy of the book. He had John Jackson Miller sign it for me, and then he signed a poster that was promoting the book for its its release. So I had both of those items. It's just my friend who lives up in PA, because I'm in Maryland and he's in Pennsylvania. Dude, just send me the book already, man. I want to read this thing, and I'm a huge Batman fan. So get off your high horse. I'm just joking with you, Jeff. I love you, brother. Addie says you said it right. The creators' names of TMNT. They created genuineness when the TMNT property was coming out, and still to this day. All right, I got what you're saying there, Addie. And then Whitefire Comics says the spinner rack behind you is cool. I was looking at other ones in the past, but hey, if you need one, talk to this man, David Campiti. He's got one for you.
Yeah. If they go, last time I looked on, what was it, eBay, they had the old comic racks from decades past, obviously used. Someone had them for sale for $1,200. Somebody was selling just the topper, the metal topper that was on those old comic racks, and they wanted $200 or $300 for that. So I think offering a comic rack delivered for under $400 is a pretty good deal for people.
Mm-hmm. I would venture to say so. I agree with that wholeheartedly. To be perfectly honest with you, no question about it.
You got me curious. I'm going to look at something in my own rack thing here.
Sure.
If there were any,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's like if a publisher or a chain of comic shops wanted to get 10 comic racks, it's under $3,000. So
That's a
it's
valid point.
Under $300 a piece, painted and logo customized any way they want. Where else are they going to get that?
That's a valid point. If you want to drop that link into the private chat that you shared with me earlier, that would be great. And then I'll post it here in the comments for everybody to take a look at. And they can go look at the campaign, the information about what's going on with that at their leisure. So we can put that in the
it's in your private chat. There you go.
Oh, it is. Okay, let me see what I have here. Private chat of StreamYard, right? The one you dropped the Kickstarter from Bonanza Girl earlier.
Yeah, that's the comic rack one.
Oh, that is the comic rack. All right, never mind. Then we did put it. I'm so sorry. I misunderstood from a moment ago. I apologize. But yes, that link is actually in the comments of this video on the feeds that it's being represented on. So go check out that link. Check out the spinner racks. Treat yourself. Get yourself one. If you know of any comic book retailers, check it out as well. Whitefire Comics says it is at the top as well. So there you go. Thanks for bringing that up, Whitefire Comics. Yeah, you're right. I just got, for a second there, I was like, wait a minute, can we put 2 and 2 together? Yes, we can. It's not an impossibility.
There
Good
we go.
Lord. Good Lord, man. Is there anyone you're looking forward to collaborating with in the future that you haven't collaborated with yet?
Oh, wow. That's tough. There are artists that I would love to work with. Joe Bennett and I have so long wanted to do a Fantastic Four story together because I've never gotten to write Fantastic Four, and he wants to do it in a Jack Kirby style, but I don't know if Marvel would ever be up for that, but we'd be up for it if he was.
There you go. Well, that's possible. Hey, anything is possible. You put something out into the universe. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But I wish you nothing but success with whatever dreams or goals you may have with terms of what you're doing, David, and things that are going on at Glass House Graphics, Glass House Studios. Do want to take this opportunity to say thank you so much to David Campiti for being our guest on this week's episode of FreeWheeling Fridays. David, you got stories for days. You met some of the biggest dudes, the biggest peeps in the business, inside and outside of the business. And I want to say thank you for everything that you've done, everything that you are going to be doing, and for being a guest on the show. Now, if someone wants to know more about you or want to purchase some of the books you've had over the years or some things you got coming up and they want to follow along with that, where can they follow you?
All right, let's see. I have a blog, davidcampeti.com, where I'll occasionally be posting about artists trying to break in. And a lot of it is about mistakes artists make and what they should have done. So I give lots of examples there. So artists, even would-be comics writers and colorists can go onto the blog and learn about what to do, what not to do to get their portfolios right, to get jobs in the business. I am on Facebook. I'm the only David Campiti on the planet, so I am not hard to find. Just type my name in, you'll find it on Facebook. If somebody needs to email me, it's david@glasshousegraphics.com. I think you've already shared both of my websites, glasshousegraphics.com for the publishing end and ghsanimation.com for the Glasshouse Studios stuff. Anybody interested in the comic rack, they've got the link. If you put in, I think my name, or if you put in, Jade Warriors, or Exposure, or Bonsai Girl, or Mike Diodato, you'll get access to the previous Kickstarters that have had all these other cool projects that we've done. That I have the thing on the Kickstarter is going where you can still order off the Kickstarter even though it's done. So any of this stuff that they want to get is there. And as I launch many new Kickstarters, I'll try to have as many of my existing items on there for people who missed them on the previous ones. So I try to be as helpful as I can with that.
Well, that's great. Congratulations to you and all the incredible people you've worked and collaborated with over the years and all the stories that are out now, whether it's through Simon & Schuster, other means. Fantastic stuff. David, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to talk to you again here in a moment, so stay with me. Don't go anywhere. For you to grab another cup of coffee and some donuts in that green room. It's all good. It's on the house, man. It's on the house. I promise you. It's all good, but I'm going to talk to you here shortly. My name is Ryan of And-I-Quote Channel. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram personally at RyanRPM5. Feel free to follow my YouTube channel that I host and produce along with my good friend and collaborator, Case, known as the Dutch Star Wars guy on YouTube.com. It's called And-I-Quote Channel. We talk about all things pop culture. We talk about movies, TV series, comic books. That's right, comic books. I mean, it's great to read words on a page, but it's also great to look at all these wonderful panels and sequential art and sequential storytelling. You know, you don't have to pull a Gaston on somebody and say, how can you read this? There's no pictures. Well, some people use their imagination. There is nothing wrong with books or using your imagination or having fun reading a comic book. There is no problem with that. We embrace the nerd within you at And-I-Quote Channel. So check us out. Links are down in the description below, or you can follow us at And-I-Quote Channel on all forms of social media. Check us out there. We're reaching 5,000 subscribers. That is our goal for 2025. Once we do on that YouTube channel, we're going to have a live stream celebration that will include returning favorites, special guests. David Campiti is more than welcome to come back and share with us some of the things that he's been up to since the last time we saw him. And we're going to have special giveaways that you, the incredible viewer/subscriber, are going to be eligible to win. So stay tuned for that. Also, we got merch, we got shirts, we got hoodies, we got stickers, we got coffee mugs. Speaking of coffee mugs, David has, I'm sure, a couple of coffee mugs in his office, but if he wants a new one, hey, we got designs for you, brother. Yeah. So check it out. Links are in our social media bios there and all that good stuff. Once again, Freewheeling Fridays is on Fridays at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so make sure you check us out. We will be back for another episode with another incredible guest that we are going to introduce you to, find out more about them and some of the projects that they have coming up or some of the things they've done in the past. Thank you so much for being here. I have so much fun doing this every week. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, do all that stuff. And it's great to support indie creators out there. And remember, don't forget to check out the great lineup of programming that they have over there at the Madness Comic Network, which is what this show is currently streaming on right now, as well as some other social media channels. So take it easy, enjoy yourselves, be safe, be strong, read a comic book, reach out to your local comic shop, support small businesses, and remember, embrace the nerd within you, and we will see you on Freewheeling Fridays next time at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Take a look at the lineup for the Madness Comic Network right now.
On the tube and feel the vibe. Every show you crave right here live. Heroes and villains clash in the night. Madness Comic Network sets it right. Scroll through the list, find what you need. Epic battles and fast-paced speed. From capes to cosmic space delight. Tune in and watch your favorites ignite. On Facebook, share the thrill so grand. On X, the buzz across the land. Madness Comic Network all around. In every episode, joy is found. Uploads, they never end. Superheroes and their friends. Catch every twist and every turn. Madness Comic, you will yearn. Stay up to date with every twist. Madness Comic, don't miss a gist. From laughter to tears, every mood. Madness Comic sets the groove. Click that button and subscribe. Catch the wave and ride the tide. Join the fun, join the craze. Madness Comic brightens days. Hey! New uploads, they never end. Superheroes and their friends. Catch every twist and every turn. Madness Comic, you will yearn. Stay up to date with every twist. Madness Comic, don't miss a gist. From laughter to tears, every mood. Madness Comic sets the groove. Click